Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie Podcast. I, as always, your co-host, Brian, and joining me, as always, is your co-host, Spaz.
Hello.
Sadly, Hunter could not join us tonight. He is swamped with work. He has a very busy job, which keeps him on his toes, so sadly, we are not being joined by him tonight, and we just don't know where Jim is. He'll probably walk in later, maybe. I don't know. But we do have a guest tonight, my friends, joining us. Oh, Spokane, Washington. That's what you said. I didn't write it down, but that's what you said, right? Spokane?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That's correct.
I remembered. Is Jeff Quinlan, the developer of Daath Origins. Did I say that right? Daath? D-A-T-H?
You said it all correct. Yes, that's perfect.
That's lovely. I mean, it's not hard to get that wrong, really, but, you know, sometimes...
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes people are like, Daath. I don't know. So, welcome, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us here to talk about your game.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Spaz. Appreciate the audience here, the opportunity to talk about my space game at the podcast dedicated to space games.
As far as I know, we're the only one.
Right?
We know our niche, and we love it.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I have to be very focused or else I'll get nothing done. So if I'm not focused on one tiny little niche, it'll just be like, I can't do everything. And then I'm done. So
right.
Keeping it focused is what works. So you have a space game called Daath Origins. It hit early access. Oh, it's September? About a month or so ago?
That's correct, yeah.
Now, if I remember correctly, you were intending to do a full 1.0 release, but then didn't do that. What happened exactly?
I learned some lessons.
All right.
You know, the biggest lesson that I learned was that I needed more people playing the game to expose more bugs. And there was particularly a nasty bug where it didn't affect every player, but on some systems, about 26 minutes into playing, different time for different, but it would just slow down to like 1 or 2 frames per second.
I had that exact thing.
Okay, so you were one of the people that suffered from it, and that's just unacceptable. And that was found, really close to when I intended to launch, because there weren't a lot of people testing the game. But I had previously had, multiple sessions of playthroughs that were a couple hours long that were recorded and stuff, no problem, before the problem existed. And then once the problem did exist, it was hard to trace back because of the engine that I chose to make the game in. It doesn't provide a lot of the modern debugging tools that make it easy to track down a certain issue lies, or what piece of code is hitting the frame rate so hard. So it was pretty much like a worst case, like nightmare scenario from a developer's perspective of, hey, it's, getting close to launch, and then all of a sudden just a major bug that doesn't have a quick, easy solution. And it's good. That's why I say it's like a lessons that I had to learn. Like I should have had more people on there. Beta testing would have been exposed sooner, maybe as soon as it happened. So I could have been like, oh, what was the one thing I changed in the last week, instead of, oh, it's been 3.5 months. Who knows, and I still went back and I went through all the changes during the time period from when I'd recorded long, multiple hour videos and didn't just have that bug, and went line by line through all the changes of the code and reverted back and tried all these different things. And I was not able to resolve it through such annual backtracking means. Like I said, in a lot of ways, just pretty much the nightmare scenario for a developer, but also a great opportunity for me to try to work through it. And I'm still working through it. And probably the biggest thing that's really preventing me right now is just real life, like all my day job and my family situation and all that kind of stuff. It's been hard to throw the man hours back onto the game at the current time. And so that's been another challenge, but luckily, I do have some time coming up that I'll be able to back into the game full time to address this and other issues. I mean, there's a lot of flaws with the game. I think one of the lessons that I really learned was there's always that advice of like, oh, you should start small with your first projects and stuff. Like, I had other games in the past, but this one in particular is my first commercial offering. It's much bigger than any other software project that, you know, I've did to ship. And because of that, like, I should have started smaller.
That's
Jumping
fair.
straight into this was a mistake, and it's good to learn from those mistakes, but you know, it's stuff that you should probably figure out before you've manufactured like 100 physical editions of the game.
Well,
Things like that.
That is, if I may say, excellent self-awareness. Well done. Not a lot of people have that level of self-awareness. So good on you. I say that with all sincerity, not even kidding.
Right. No.
But yeah, no, I ran into that issue too with like I was playing, and I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
It took about 10 tries to pass that first battle for me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it took a lot of tries. But when I was capturing it on video, I finally passed it, I think, on the second try. So, whoo! Because I checked the car, I looked at the cargo bay, and like, oh look, there are things in here that could help me. Oh, so
there wasn't much of a tutorial, and I've definitely gotten that feedback from multiple angles. But I do have some plans to give it
right.
more of a tutorial, but I want to keep it organic feeling, you know, because it's nice when a tutorial is just kind of slid into some normal exposition and dialogue instead of ham-fisted and in your face. Like, here's the tutorial, but I don't know. I do think that from all the playtesting that I've and that I've got, that exactly what you just said with the battle being here and kind of too difficult without the information of how you can systems that the games provide. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an area I'm looking to address.
Good. I mean, once I finally passed that battle, I'll admit I was a bit frustrated for a bit because I was like, God damn it, I just want to whip past this thing. Once I passed that thing, I was like, oh look, there's a whole big game here. I was very pleasantly surprised. There's like a huge map with all these solar systems, and they have all these planets, and it's kind of slightly giving me a Starflight vibe a little bit, which is a very good thing. Honestly.
I like to hear that.
What was that, Spaz?
We love that game.
Oh yeah. You will rarely find bigger Starflight fans than some of the folks around here, me especially. Have you played Starflight?
I haven't. No.
Oh,
in fact,
it's an old one. It's a very old game. I don't know if I can recommend it to people today because it's so old. It's
what time period are we talking?
1986.
Yeah, that is kind of that age of.
Yeah, its entire interface is the cursor keys and like the space bar. It's very rudimentary, but so expansive and well written, and just it's a marvel to explore. At least it was back in the day when I like had my own starship for the first time. That was amazing. But no, that was a very good thing. Once I got past that battle, I was like, oh wow, there's a lot more here. So this is a pretty huge game. It has
it's pretty sizable. Like the game engine only goes up to 1,000 maps, so I tried to pack as many in there as I could. We have it extended so I could go above that 1,000 limit, but
right. So I'm going to admit I had a couple problems recording the game. So I'm wondering which engine you're using. There were, I couldn't record the cutscenes for some reason. Oh, I'm using OBS Studio, and this on OBS it just went black during the cutscenes, which is very odd. So which engine are you using?
Yeah, so with this game, well, basically, I chose to use RPG Maker XP for a couple of different reasons. First of all, this initially started as a prototype of a project that I wasn't intending to release to the public, and I ended up doing a lot of work into this prototype. Started to realize that with the Ruby scripting language in RxP, that it was actually pretty much slice it open. You could reprogram it however you wanted. There were some sealed libraries that you can't touch, but other than that, you've got pretty much the whole source code to mess with. And so from that point, I changed gears, thinking, well, maybe I could do a commercial game with RPG Maker XP in this little demo project that I had. Then I took it to Greenlight, and it actually at that time was called Daath Galaxy, and it did not get good critical feedback as Daath Galaxy. So I actually back to the drawing board with it, and there was basically, I've got all these stories, like these space opera stories that I want to tell through the vehicle of gameplay. And I've always intended to do franchise and not necessarily just a one-off. And so at that point, I decided to try to redo that Greenlight campaign that I was doing. And so I took the game that I was intending to make next, which was called Daath Universe, and it was a 3D version of the same game mechanics and the same type of gameplay, but a different story. And I pitched that on Greenlight, and that did get approved. And so the point that I'm getting at here is that this game got rejected basically on Greenlight a first time. And that should have been my like wake up call right then. Like, okay, the market has already rejected the game. It's not getting that critical reception. I should have just moved on to what my market was saying. Yeah, like we want that 3D version of that game. But instead of doing that, I had a hard time throwing the work away that I'd already done into this 2D RPG Maker XP. At this point, it was already a couple years deep into it. And but I didn't want to use the story that I had for the 3D game. So I wrote a new story for this, which eventually became Daath Origins. And then I put that on Greenlight as Daath Origins, and I couldn't get it through either. And
oh no.
That to me, yeah. And so that was the second time the market rejected it.
Oh.
And I really, again, should have just taken the market feedback. And this is where I'm getting back to the whole like learning lessons, because the one thing that makes me feel all right about this situation is the reason why I didn't want to throw this game away, or part of it was because I felt like it would be a good learning lesson. Like I could make mistakes and not really fear those mistakes. Like I could just go into it and learn what it's like to take a game through the release process, take it through the release candidate phase into a stable, solid release, and then have a practice run it supporting the game, after its post-release. And so as I'm encountering these current like worst case scenarios, that's kind of the background of where I'm coming from. Is I want to make multiple games, and I feel like this is my first attempt, and I've learned some very valuable lessons about what I've done wrong, and I've also done things right, I think. But there's been a lot of things that I've done wrong that are very apparent having gone through this process, which I wouldn't have known otherwise. But at the end of the day, I've still got this product in early access that I need to fix and refine, and this as a full release. There's such a stigma. Like I hate early access games, to be honest. Like I never wanted to release an early access game, But in this case, it was the right move because game itself is there. There's game mechanics. There's 75 quests. There's large game world. There's some substance there. A lot of early access games I've tried don't necessarily have a lot of substance to start with. So I feel like I've got something there, but the bugs and the iron gameplay loops, roller issues that people have reported, like I've got a number of pieces of feedback that I need to act on. I feel like it gives me a good opportunity to do that. And like I said earlier, though, my biggest obstacle in the current moment is just day-to-day life, my day job and my family situation. If I can just here's some more free time to, and like I said, I've got a good plan for that. Really like to spend another good, really focused development, fix this game.
Well, it looks like, at least on the Steam forum for the game, you're pretty open about, it's got, you're working on the issues and whatnot. So that right there will really help engender not only good feedback, but goodwill on the part of the community.
The community has been great so far. I mean, I've been as open and honest as I can be, and people have, like you said, responded really well to that, and I really
it's early access can be a real double-edged sword, we have found. I use that term every time I talk about early access, but it's true. I mean, it can be great if you treat it right, because gamers, we are a fickle lot. Very, very fickle. So if you treat it openly and honestly, as you were doing, it can be really great. But if you publish a game and then don't say anything for 6 months and put one patch out or whatever, you're not going to do so great. So it sounds like you have the right of it, and it sounds like you have your, especially your life priorities, because you have a day job. This isn't your full-time thing, which probably gives you some flexibility in terms of I will deal with this when I can.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And I see someone else in the Steam forum had the same slowdown bug that I did. If you watch the YouTube video, you'll see it happen live. I'm not playing it right now. I played it earlier today when I recorded it, and about 20 minutes in, I was like, wait, what's going on? Why is everything getting stuttery? And this was even after a couple of reloads of save games. So I'm not sure what the cause is there. It's like I have an old system, on the old side, but it shouldn't this should not make a chug. You know what I mean? So you're saying that there are all these lessons, all these failures, but what do you think you've done right with it? What are some things you really like about what you've done with this so far? Because there are a couple things I really like, but I want to hear your answers first.
Sure. Well, first of all, I like the fact that the soundtrack, that was really fun. There's 31 songs. It's an hour and a half of music. Did most of the sound effects from scratch. So I started with a sine wave, and then I just run them through filters and some various effects over it. That was really fun. I really enjoyed all the audio angles of game. I also there's aesthetic things, I think, that I'm really proud of some of the art direction. Not all of it, but I'm proud of it because I don't view myself as an artist. So the space scenery and stuff that looks good, I'm really proud of that. I do feel like I'm decent at Photoshop, but I'm more of a programmer and a musician. So the whole art angle is something that I would like to find somebody else to work with that can handle the art, who is good at it, and that's what they do. But yeah, there's a lot of things I'm proud of. I'm at least proud of the fact that I've got the game to the state that it's at in terms of its content, its length, the story. That's probably about the long and short of it, though. The physical edition, I guess, would be the last thing I'd mention. Manufacturing that, making printer, and I made the starship that you play as at, and it includes the soundtrack and the map and manual.
Can people still buy that?
The only thing, I haven't put it for sale yet because the game's not done.
Oh,
and I could pre-order it, but who's going to pre-order an early access physical edition? Yeah, it's just
That's fair.
But when the time comes, I am going to definitely have those available and
that's awesome.
Out promotionally.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I love physical copies of games. Like, I'm kind of a collector.
Yeah.
Like, I just bought a game from 1990 the other day. Renegade Legion Interceptor from SSI.
Hey, what about instead of 3D printing the spaceship and
Hi, Jim.
in the box, what if you 3D printed a spaceship and it was the box, and then you put the game in it?
That'd be rad.
Ladies and gentlemen, your co-host Jim.
I have arrived.
But I wanted to say,
it's a zoo here, man. Trick or treating going on.
Oh, really?
Trying to put Joan on the plane. Yeah, she's got to go retrieve Mama-san, bring her back, and then my life ends.
Oh no!
When the mother-in-law moves in, you're done.
Wait, is your mother-in-law moving in? Side note,
Yes. So if you never hear from me again, you know what happened. I've got a bridge picked out and everything.
Oh no. I hope everything's okay there. But
yeah, it's cool. It was like, her dad died like a month ago.
Oh, right.
Figure out what to do with mom. So.
Well, that's nice of you guys. I mean, you have a pretty good sized house, if I remember correctly. So, it sounds like this is a reasonable arrangement. Anyway, back to this. I was going to say that I think my favorite thing so far about the game is the varied way the away teams can die. I really, or not even just die, just like they can even flee. I like that they could be like, screw this, I'm out of here. And they take the little like shuttle or whatever, and then they bolt. I really enjoy that.
I noticed there's a loyalty stat for them.
Yes, there's a mutiny stat. Let's talk about some of the mechanics of the game. So basically you're on this ship with 1 million people, is it?
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of those people are like your soldiers and your crew, but there's also like colonists and stuff. And you're hiding from the Draconian? Am I remembering
That's correct.
Yeah, yes. You're hiding from this race that destroyed the Earth hundreds of years ago.
Yep.
And at one point, when you start the game, you're sent off in a little shuttle to examine this like subspace anomaly. Let's just use Star Trek terms. A subspace anomaly. And all kinds of bad crap happens, and suddenly you're kind of on the run, I guess. That's where I left off anyway. Like all of a sudden, the Draconian folks are back. You got to get a move on. And to what though? What are you getting a move on to? To a new home? To a hiding place? What is the ultimate goal here?
Well, the way I wrote the game, story-wise, it's a 3-act story, and so Act 1, I intend to. There's that 36 sector galaxy that you can explore, and my whole intention of creating that galaxy was to try to make it feel nice and safe, like this is the game, this is where you're going to be. And then end of Act 1, the galaxy gets destroyed.
What?
And so then and so then you get you end up basically finding some alien tech. The bad guy that destroyed the galaxy, you end up running into him, doing a big trans-dimensional thing, and you end up getting sucked into what's called the multiverse hub. From there, there's different like iterations of the universe. You're trying to basically go find a version of the universe that's like yours that didn't get blown up at the. But there's I think 11 different endings to the game.
Oh my
depending
god!
on your alignment.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Because after you have your first battle, you're kind of asked a series of Elder Scroll-ish questions to determine your character.
Yes. That's basically the character creation section. It changed so many times. Initially, you could see your character and totally different presentation. Ended up being scaled back into that because I was trying to write the dialogue without like ever referring to the captain's gender, like referring to your gender. So I ended up getting rid of the gender selection, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna end up, if you can't see, if you can't choose the gender, then you can't really see the captain. So then I got rid of the physical representation of what you look like, and it was like, okay, well, why do I have this character creation section? And so I ended up rewriting it as more of that what you have now, where it's just a dialogue between a officer and you, quizzing you on the data that they lost from the computer during the attack.
Right, and there were what, about 25 or 30 different I don't know, professions, career paths,
backgrounds, basically,
specialties. Yeah. I chose Wanderer because
nice.
I like that Neil Young song, but also because I'm a fan of exploring. But there was also, I like some of the, like there was a lawyer, I think, and where's some of the other ones? Like where's some of the professions you can choose? Like there was some really.
I went with medic. Personally.
Okay. Or remind me, what were some of the other ones you could choose?
Junkie was probably the weirdest one.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you could choose to be junkie.
A donkey?
A junkie, yeah. Junkie.
Oh, junkie. I almost chose that one because, name of the site, but I decided not to.
Right.
But yeah, it was really nice getting to see I'm like, oh my god, this is an RPG. Like this isn't just shooting a thing over and over again. So basically, you have a ship with all these souls on it, and tell me about the mutiny level.
All right,
that was a neat thing I saw. What is that?
So anytime there's an action that occurs during member doesn't like, so if your ship gets attacked, or even increases when the enemy, like an enemy ship does something like repairs their own ship, the mutiny will go up by a percentage, usually just 1%. But there's other situations, like for example, you can be put in situations kind of at the end of Act 1 where you're able to forge an alliance with some of the Draconians, and they really like eating humans, and so you can start feeding your crew members to the Draconian for money, and the crew obviously don't like that, and so that makes your mutiny go up.
Well, yeah, that makes total sense.
And so the thing is that the mutiny, what it will do is if it's over 50%, then there's a random check when you're moving on the map, and if you roll the dice wrong, essentially when the mutiny is over 50%, and one of your skilled crew members who give you a new crew skill will attempt to overthrow you, and get like a little button prompt type situation to defend yourself from their attack. And if you do defend yourself, then they die and you lose that crew skill. So crew skills are something that you get when you level up. Each time you level up, you're able to choose a new crew skill, and then there's a skill tree that is unlocked essentially. So you need prerequisite skills to get deeper skills. And so the problem is if you have too much mutiny, then you lose some of those prerequisite skills, and you have to promote new crew members next time you level up and relearn those skills. That's
So
part of the.
Is it possible to reduce that level?
Is it possible to level down? Is that what you're
To
saying?
reduce the mutiny level.
Oh, yes, absolutely. There's multiple ways to reduce the mutiny, but there's like a special skill that you can get midway through the game if you go down a certain path, where it's really easy to, because you basically just drug the crew, and so their mutiny goes down because they're all drugged out.
Well, that's fun.
Well, yeah, it's part of the unethical, the bad skill, or not skill tree, but alignments. If you go down the really bad paths, you
So
end
the
up
unlawful. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
And there's not too much other than that.
No, but that's pretty cool. I thought that was neat. I noticed that when I won a battle, my mutiny went down significantly.
Oh yeah, every time you win a battle, it goes down by 10%, or not 10%, but just 10.
Which is important,
Oh yeah,
that's pretty awesome. Sorry, my cat is really trying to be distracting right now. He's like,
cats are good at that.
He's really demanding right now, which is not usual right now. He's usually like hiding somewhere, but like stop it.
Like if the cat runs up and gives you a wedgie.
I'll post a
Get out of
picture.
here,
I just
cat.
took a picture. I'll post a picture.
If
But
the cat gave you a wedgie, I want video.
no, they're not that.
Okay.
They don't have thumbs. How could a cat? They don't have thumbs. How could they give you?
Claws, man. They get the hooks in them drawers. And
I suppose. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it's very true. I just posted a link to what he's doing in the stream chat. So how long have you been working on this one? It sounds like a while now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this one started in 2014.
Wow.
And talking about cats, I was compelled because I writing the 75 quests kind of gave me an opportunity to be like a little, rip off some Star Trek episodes and to write a few of my own. Essentially, it felt that. So one of them that I included was there's a ship, and he's a scientist and he's running. Somehow he ends up making his cat super intelligent, and the cat leaves the ship on a escape pod. And so one of the little side quests you can be handed, track down the super intelligent cat.
We do love cats in our space games,
Right?
especially Spaz.
Indeed.
What is it? Holy Potatoes. We're in space.
Yeah.
It has a cat that has a cat that can warp, basically.
And they made plush versions of that cat, and I own all 3 of them.
And it's goddamn adorable. It is. I'm sorry, Spaz. I could not bring myself to buy them, but I could totally see.
Is it
totally.
like a water bear.
What? What's a water bear?
The thing on Star Trek Discovery that can warp with mushrooms.
Oh, the tardigrade.
Yes.
Why'd you have to bring up Discovery? Okay. Moving on.
I'm mud.
Moving on. Oh God. let's not. Oh yeah, there they are.
Yeah, I
Spaz
just left them in stream chat.
Oh, so there are 3 of them. Oh my God, and they have different facial expressions. Well, at least 2 of them do. So what are some? I've only found one station so far, and they want me to find a drill for them. So I don't know if that's one of the quests. But what are, besides finding the super hyper intelligent cat, what is the what are some of the other quests you can do?
Yeah, so there's hidden. There's like some ships that have crashed on different planets. So there's that type of fetch quest where it's like, oh, there's cargo ship over in this sector. We lost contact. Go investigate. There's those typical type of things. But the way I wrote each quest was I'd start with a kind of basic premise like that. And then the next step in my quest writing was like, well, how do I make that different? Like, how do I twist that? And it was really hard, and I wasn't definitely successful in each thing. But some of the other ones are like, there's 50 different alien life forms spread on the habitable planets. There's alien race called the Zira, and they have artifacts that are spread across like certain bone powers and stuff like that. And there's the multi-dimensional stuff. There's a version of the galaxy that is it's like a really crappy version of the galaxy, like less stars. It's really dark. Everything's red.
Is it like that next gen episode where there's all the multiple wharfs, and then you get the multiple enterprises, and there's that one enterprise that's like the last like ship in the galaxy that hasn't been taken over by the Borg, and you get crazy beard Riker. Yeah. Crazy beard Riker.
Yeah, I love that episode. And
oh my god,
yeah. When you're in the multiverse hub, there's multiple versions of your ship, and at the beginning of the game, the ship's captained by a female captain, and she dies. And so when you're in the multiverse hub, there's versions of her still captaining the ship. Also versions of the ship that are captained by your first officer. Yes, oh, wow. There is a reference kind of to the crazy Riker.
Yes.
Great.
Yes, that makes me so happy.
So in the mirror universe, does Riker not have a goatee? Is that how you tell that he's evil?
Well, no, in our universe, evil Riker has a goatee. Thomas Riker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he stole the Defiant, that son of a bitch. He's in the Maquis now. Spoiler.
I've been falling asleep to Next Generation episode.
Oh, what was the last one you watched?
It was the one where the Federation is testing, like they send an admiral, and there's this guy, I forget his name, but he's grilling the crew about the captain's log, about Captain Picard's logs, and Riker hates the dude. And the episode where the B story is Wesley is testing for the Academy, and there's
that's an early one.
Yeah, it's season 1.
Yeah, I haven't watched. I think season 1 is the season I've watched the least.
I don't blame you.
Again.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a couple good things in there. Like, I love Conspiracy. Love Conspiracy. But there is so much garbage in there.
There really is. It's
fun.
The Wesley Crusher show.
Oh. Yeah. And it's funny, we're going through we're doing another rewatch of Deep Space Nine right now. And we're not.
I love Deep Space Nine.
I know.
Deep Space Nine is our favorite trek,
right.
Honestly.
The thing is, the first time I watch it, I was told to skip a bunch of episodes in season 1 and 2 and get right to the good stuff, which I did. But this time, we're not skipping anything. And so we just saw Move Along Home, which is the worst. But it's like season 1 already is so much better than season 1 of Next Gen. And
oh yeah,
like We just watched the last episode with Opaka, which is just so sad. You know what I'm talking about? With the one where she dies and then comes back and she can't leave.
Isn't Opaka the co-pilot?
No.
Spiritual leader of Bajor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kai.
I was thinking Chewbacca. Never mind.
No. You do need to watch this, Jim, at some point. You really, really do. He's so good. Anyway. Sorry, we get on tangents here. What was that?
Chewbacca's not dead.
We get on tangents here. We're big Star Trek nerds. So like you talk about a good Star Trek, like Next Gen or D6-9, it'll be like, woo! If you bring up Discovery, we'll move on quickly. Well, since I mentioned it, what are your thoughts on Discovery real quick? Just give me like how you feel about it.
Ooh, okay. Well, I'm 2 episodes behind. But so far I enjoy the writing, but I don't enjoy the meddling with the Klingons, especially because if you look at the first episode of Enterprise, which is predates this show, the Klingon look like the Klingon that we know from, the original series movie onwards.
Right.
And so at first I was like, I hadn't thought about that. And I was like, well, maybe it'll be like later in Enterprise where they had an explanation for, the genetic engineering that caused the original series ons to look like humans. Like I was like, maybe they got some story way they're going to explain this, but now I'm like, no, they don't have anything. It's literally, they just redesigned the Klingons because they wanted to.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm angry about that, but the show itself, I'm still reserving my judgment until I get to the end. I'll watch it. That's where I'm at.
I don't know what that was. There's some crazy feedback there for a second. Yeah, I'm hate watching it myself. Because it's Star Trek. So I'm going to watch it. But, oh my God, so much about it bothers me. So, beyond the Klingons, just so much about it bothers me.
Well, it's definitely not written like a Star Trek. It's the only reason why I'm giving it a pass for it not feeling like Star Trek is the fact that it's a wartime story. And so I'm trying to just be like, okay, this, because, the swearing and the gore and the, you know what, probably sexually though, it's probably toned down from some of the other ones so far.
The best thing in episode 7 is that you find out that even though it's hundreds of years in the future, people still party down to the Bee Gees.
And Al Green.
Yes.
And Al Green. We're not even making that up. Jim isn't even joking. There's a party in this latest episode, yet they're playing 20th century music.
At least they're not playing the Enterprise theme song.
I just think they're in the mirror universe. I think that's the only way that any of this makes sense. Because then they could say, "Oh, it's the original timeline, but it's the mirror universe. That's why everyone's a dick." Anyway,
yeah,
it is the darkest timeline.
This is like how Section 31 started.
No, Section 31 was before this. Section 31 was started with the Federation, so it already exists. So,
never mind. There goes that theory.
Yeah.
So,
it might be a Section 31 ship because the number 31, but then it's 1031, which is Halloween. So who the hell knows?
Oh my God. That's true. It is.
Yeah.
It's a Halloween ship.
It's a Halloween ship. Yeah. It's a total Halloween ship.
Mushroom ship.
It's
the code.
Okay. So episode 7 is one of
He hasn't seen it yet. He hasn't seen it yet. Let's not spoil.
One of those. It's fine.
I know
care.
that.
Oh,
but
okay.
It's one of those goofy, you know how like every now and then they would have like just a ridiculous episode on Next Generation,
which is fine.
Just be like,
every now and again.
Like, yeah, it'd be like Worf dresses like Santa Claus this episode for no reason.
The crew members get turned into children.
Exactly.
I love that episode, actually. But anyway.
Yeah, so it's one of those. But the way that it ends, it's like what you were saying about the kind of the gore and stuff that they do. It's a whimsical episode filled with dismemberment and disintegration.
It's an insanely violent episode that has an ending.
Then at the end, it's like, and then we all lived happily ever after.
And the ending, it's an insanely violent episode with an ending that does not fit it at all. Like, have you ever watched West Wing? Like, at the end of every West Wing episode, like, no matter how dark it is, they go to the end credits, and the end credits are the happiest fucking music you will ever hear. Someone could have just died. And then they'll end this credits, and you go, it doesn't fit a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's like
at all. It's like that.
Like everybody just died. Whip out the Golden Girls theme song.
But they didn't die. It's oh my god. They did, but they didn't. But they did, but they didn't. So yeah. Anyway, back to Daath Origins.
Yeah, well, it's the classic Trek cliche of there's a time loop, and one of us has figured it out that we're Groundhog Daying.
Thank God that one guy just injected himself with DNA, or else none of them would have figured it out. They don't have a Guinan, so I mean,
he's kind of their Guinan. That is his role, isn't it? But yes, it's interesting though, because it's like the guy that's time looping him. Spoiler, Harry Mudd. But the guy that's doing this has actually murdered the entire crew of the ship about 60 times. And has individually killed people pretty gruesomely, and in fact, he's enjoying the shit out of it. He's experimenting, finding new ways to kill Lorca.
The best thing about the episode is a montage where you see the various ways he's killed Lorca, and it's actually quite funny.
Hilarious.
It's so stupid. It's so stupid, but it's quite funny.
It's like, I'll disintegrate you. I'll burn you alive. I'll teleport you out into space, and he teleported him like right outside the window so he could like watch him like choke in space.
Yeah, it was just like,
damn,
like the only part of Discovery I've actually enjoyed.
Yeah, and then at the end, then they're like, oh, no hard feelings, get out of here, silly Harry.
It's yeah. Anyway, back to Daath Origins. So you said you were ready to return to work on the game. What are your upcoming plans for it? Like, what's the next? Like, you're gonna try and track down the slowdown? Do you have a time frame for when you're gonna get out of early access? Anything like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the things that I have been working on when I have had, half hour here, 45 minutes here, 2 hours here, have been I've been porting the game from RPG Maker XP. AXP, which is an open source C++ station.
Which engine?
Of the engine.
You cut out for a second. Which engine are you porting it to?
It's called MKXP. So it's a open source version of the self, but it also will allow it to be it brings a lot of improvements. So the RPG Maker XP engine itself doesn't use like the GPU for much. It's single threaded and ends on the performance of a single core. And MKXP, on the other hand, does have GPU acceleration. So it'll take the onus from the CPU and it'll put it on the GPU. And it's such a graphically minimal game to begin with that it's just going to make it run better on everything, essentially. And it also opens the door to ports. That's the main thing that I've been working on because I feel like once I have the game under that engine, it'll be easier to debug the specific issue causing that problem. Right now, I'm kind of flying in the dark, and it's like I gotta guess about what subsystem is doing this, because I've injected through using debugging tools or whatever. So I'm able to look into the memory address pool and stuff, and I'm able to get really barbaric overviews of what areas are making a lot of calls and stuff, but it's still not the type of debugging tools that I would like to be using.
Right. Where can I'm trying to look up that engine. Where can you find
XP?
Yeah, MKXP is
on GitHub.
Oh.
It's
I'm finding
Burio
I'll
slash
find.
MKXP.
Oh, okay. I'll find it. Cause yeah,
But it was
sorry.
it was made for To the Moon.
Oh, To the Moon, of course. I've seen that game. I'd like to play that game. I hear it's very good. Well, okay, I'll find it. so
I
is
should
that?
mention I hit one bug when because I was the first one of us to actually try to play the game, and I had hit a bug in which, because I had my foot pedal, which I use for a push to talk key normally, that was connected, and the game apparently was reading it as a controller because I had no control over my ship.
Oh gosh.
And it was pointing to the upper left when I started the game, and I couldn't actually move anywhere else. So I was kind of stuck. I had to Alt F4 the game. But unplugging the foot pedal, that solved the issue, and I was able to play normally.
Yeah, with the controls, with the port to the new game engine, that will alleviate that issue because I'll have X input and direct input. I have both of those in the. Right now, it only uses, I think, direct input, or I always getting confused. Maybe right now it only does X input. It only does one of the two. And so the new version of the game will have both. And it shouldn't pick up on things that are. If it does, I'll fix it.
Yeah, I just thought I'd mention it in case someone else hits that issue.
Appreciate that.
Have you played that To the Moon game, by the way?
I have, actually. Yeah, when I decided I was going to try to make a commercially viable on RPG Maker XP, it was only after, I had seen that there were a handful of other games on the engine that actually were successful. So
I was disappointed to find out that it wasn't a Jackie Gleason thing. The Honeymooners.
Yeah, I did play it, and it's what the strength to it is its narrative. It's definitely just one of those walking sim, narrative type of experiences where there's not a whole chunk of like exciting gameplay to do, but there is a really compelling story to be told. So in that sense, it's a really good story and deserves its critical reception. And it's also a really I'm thankful for it because not only was it successful, but like I said, that game engine that I'm porting to is only around because of To the Moon.
And folks, if you're interested, To the Moon is on sale right now for $3 in the Halloween sale. But by the time you might hear this, it might not be on sale anymore. Just FYI, because the sale ends tomorrow. So, just FYI there. Yeah, this game looks really, really neat. I will definitely have to pick it up at some point. Once I play through some like 20, 30,000 other games I have in my backlog.
Backlog.
We do love our
that.
We do love our backlogs. We do love our backlogs here at Space Game Junkie. Oh, so like I gotta ask, like, because you were saying you fit in half an hour here, 45 minutes there. Does that become like really draining, like to fill in time with this thing that isn't like? Do you find this relaxing enough that, like, or do you find this enjoyable enough that like that's relaxation to you, or is that work to you?
Right now it's work, but there is certainly a lot of aspects of game creation that's just like, I'm going to do it regardless of if there's a game or if there's a product. I'm just going to do it. So it might as well be for a game or for a product. Things like the music and the things that I love that type of stuff anyway. So that stuff like just comes pretty naturally, although writing the 75 quests, man, I really, really had some writer's block towards the end of that.
It's understandable.
Yeah. Oh, totally understandable. I mean, how detailed are those quests like on chains? Like how detailed do those get?
Well, some of them are pretty open ended, but most of them are pretty trying to give you like one of maybe two or three possible outcomes. Because obviously, the more you branch off, the more issues you have for like tying back towards a central narrative or anything like that. I had to be really careful. Also, because some of the crew members, not all of them, but a good chunk of them can die in certain situations. And so I needed to keep track of who was alive at what point, or who was possibly alive and who was possibly dead. So the graphs and like charts and stuff I ended up printing out during the process are pretty illegible with all the scribblings over it and only useful to me.
So you said there are 11 endings to this game?
So yeah, something like that. 11 or 12, I think 11. You can cheat and you can go into the game folder, and if you go into the videos folder, there's just all the cutscenes and stuff sitting there, including the ending narratives, and they're labeled by like neutral good, true neutral, chaotic evil.
Oh, that's great. And so how early in the game can you steer toward one of those endings, or does it happen like mid game, later game?
Yeah, to get to an actual ending or whatever that gives you the credits, and the quickest way to do that is to go the pure evil path. And so you got to kill the character that gives you the quiz at the beginning, that where you fill out your character sheet essentially. So you kill her, that skips I think 4 quests or something, just knocks them out. If you just keep doing the most crappiest, list options you get, it cuts you through a good chunk of Act 1 and gets you right into Act 2 pretty quick. And so that's the quickest way, but it's still, I think, probably 20 hours to get rushing through and nowhere to go. It's still probably about 20 hours to get the worst ending.
Oh, wow. So there's a lot of gameplay in here. Like 20 to 30 hours for an ending, it sounds like.
Yeah, and then there's also a new game plus. There's some ultra bosses, like some god tiered bosses that really can't approach unless you've got crazy armor and weapons and stuff like that. And so using the new game plus and stuff, you're able to retain your cargo bay each time, and you're equipped out. You're able to get some power armor. And
speaking of bosses, the combat is kind of JRPG-ish. Is that the like RPG Maker legacy thing happening there? Because it reminded
absolutely.
Yeah, it reminded me of like it was kind of JRPG-ish and kind of not Pokemon-ish, but like in that vein. Where you pick up.
Reminded me of Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah,
the combos that you could put in order to get those special moves out.
Hey, what's that sci-fi RPG maker-ish game that came out about 6 months ago or something?
Starfleet Armada?
No, it's you run around with a party of people. My dog's in
Cosmic Star Heroine.
Yes, that.
Was that good?
Yes.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, yeah. I backed it on Kickstarter.
I wonder what engine was that. Do you know? I'm just wondering if it's that open source.
I don't know offhand.
RPG Maker.
I need to play that game.
Oh, it's stuff.
What's it called again?
Cosmic Star Heroine. Apparently, it's very good.
It is.
Anyway, oh, there it is. I'm gonna have to look, see how much it is. I've totally lost my train of thought now. Totally.
So mechanically, the game in combat, right, like you guys are saying, it's got that RPG Maker feel. what I tried to do was add some differences to it. So one of the things you can do is if you're fighting just one ship, is you can send an away team into the ship, and then they counter, either treasures or enemies in the ship, and then they gotta, deal with the enemies, and that also depletes the health of the ship essentially, so that or it depletes the crew members, and so if there's no crew members left, then you battle and or stuff. But I wanted to keep the real classic JRPG mechanics while adding some different layers of spice. I always felt like the whole interface for a JRPG have lent itself to a space battle. This is where the idea for the game kind of initially even came from.
Where was that?
Oh yeah, I was just saying that the idea for the game kind of just came because I'd play JRPGs and I would think,
right,
this perfect system.
Yeah, it reminds. Sorry, I was gonna say. Go ahead.
Oh, the name escapes me now. Save me, Spaz. The Starbase thing that came out. It's kind of XCOM-y, but then
Halcyon 6.
Yeah, Halcyon 6. Yes.
Yeah, it kind of reminds.
Just came out with the Supernova edition.
Oh yeah, it reminded me of a DS game called Infinite Space, which also had very JRPG spaceship combat, similar to yours.
I remember recommending that to you a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I'm stuck in it. Been stuck for a couple of years now. I can't find a way to move forward.
Maybe microtransaction paywall. Is that what you're saying?
For a TS game? No, they didn't have crates back then for DS games. So no, there's no crate to get the magic key to get me out of whatever I'm stuck behind.
Yeah, you remember Old Man Murray back in the day? How they used to review games, time to crate. It used to mean
time to crate.
Yeah, and it's relevant again.
Yep.
Like they need to dig Eric Wolpa out of retirement.
If you don't know what we're talking about, folks, there was an article back. There was a site called Old Man Murray in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they had an article about first-person shooters using crates as part of the scenery that was just amazing. And they had an actual time to crate thing in the article, and they rated games based on how long it took to get to your first crate. And it was pretty.
But now it's time to loot crate.
It was
like,
pretty
how long
great.
Can I play this before they shove a loot crate microtransaction in my face?
So yeah, the time to crate phrase is back. So Daath Origins, you're saying, is going to be part of a series?
Yes, that's the intention.
Right. So this is the what? The introduction to the humans? Because you're already well into the story here. Once you even start, Earth has been dead for hundreds of years, and you're hiding from the Draconians. So what are So you're the humans here. Are you gonna be the Draconians in another entry? What do you have planned for the future of this?
Yeah, well, the main thing that's introduced, I guess, is the multi-dimensional travel and aliens that are never actually encountered in the game, but you're using their tech, is kind of where the franchise is meant to go. And the sense of exploring them and their technologies, but in the long run, what I've done is I've got a timeline, and the timeline contains the different story arcs, and so I've got story arcs that I don't know if I'll ever try to attempt a game for it, but they're still there for myself. And it's, I don't know. It's I make music primarily to satisfy my own desire to make music. And if I can use it for something, whether it's in a commercial or in a video game or whatever I might use it for, that's great. But that's not really the primary intention. kind of the same thing when I'm writing these stories and stuff like that. It's just because I'm into space stuff like crazy. Like I religiously try to pour through as much space television as I can. Super sad that Dark Matter recently got canceled because I was really invested in that show. And I don't know. There's a lot of passion that's just innate for this type of creativity. And so I do have specific design documents, and Daath Galaxy itself has a playable demo, the 3D version of the next game in the series. But at the same point, as I'm learning these lessons with this first game, it's gonna make me go back and try to be smarter with the.
Oh, I think you cut out again. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. We're having Discord does this sometimes where someone will just cut out. You know, it's very, very weird.
I think it's noise gate or something. I think it's like if I drop below a certain noise threshold, it's cutting me out.
Oh God, it's that. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that was at the auto pickup thing, whatever it is. Yeah. So so it's all multi. See, I love the idea of multi-dimensional stuff like sliders and well, the first season anyway, and and you know that whole Community episode with the multiple timelines. One of their most
that's a great episode.
One of their most genius episodes. So yeah, I am definitely a fan of things with multiple timelines, except for I don't know about if you watch the TV shows like Flash and whatnot, but yeah, they're not working for me there.
Right.
Barry's such an idiot. Oh my God, he's so stupid. He's so stupid. Anyway. It sounds like you have a really solid plan for the future of this series. And I guess since you're not trying to do this full time, it's not like, oh my God, I need to sell 10,000 copies to be successful. I mean, sure you'd like to, but I mean, like it's interesting. We've talked to developers who do this full time and those who don't, and it's kind of interesting that there's a different attitude between those who do this full time and those who don't.
Right.
You know, like I'm sure you'd love to do this full time, but you have a day job, and you know, what is your day job, by the way?
Yeah. So it's pretty funny to me because what I do is I'm a refrigerator scrapper.
What is that?
I'm actually so I take the recyclable parts from a refrigerator. I remove the parts that have, you know, oils and stuff like that are bad for the environment and dispose of them in a proper waste container. And the reason why I feel it's funny is because I've put scrapping and scrap as such an integral thing in the game because of that, you know. But what the day job essentially is, though, is people they get a new refrigerator, and what do they do with the old one? They give it to Lowe's, or they got to get rid of it somehow. Eventually it ends up at my warehouse. What I do is, like I said, I just recover all the copper and the aluminum, precious metals, the wiring, and take away the stuff that's, you know, toxic.
That sounds... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and the reason why I really like this job, though, is because it's really physical, and I end up like moving hundreds of fridges every day, and it's so different from what I'm used to before that, you know, because I've spent a lot of time as a programmer behind the desk and stuff like that. It's actually nice having a job where it's like I feel like I don't need to go to the gym afterwards because I've already got my workout.
I'll admit I've never heard of this before. It sounds kind of dangerous since you're dealing with like things that can fall on you and things that could probably chemicals and whatnot. You know, I mean, it sounds fairly dangerous. Is there like what? How does one learn how to do this?
Well, it's pretty simple. There's not a lot to it. There's definitely some danger. I broke my ribs in the. I've been at this job for a couple years, and in the first 6 months, like a stove fell out of a truck, and I went to catch it, and the side of the stove clipped me in the ribs and broke my ribs.
Oh,
there's always stuff like that to be careful of, but like I said, I do enjoy the contrast because I do still spend a lot of time behind a desk at a computer, so I really like the manliness of just tearing apart a fridge and throwing it on a semi truck.
I will admit that does sound like it has a certain appeal. Like a while back, I did flood relief. This was in the 90s in Missouri. And a lot of it was ripping apart these homes so they could be repaired. And there was something just so satisfying about taking a crowbar to a wall, you know, and just ripping the thing apart. It's really nice, actually. So
it's therapeutic.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, I'm angry today. Here, let me rip apart a refrigerator. That sounds actually kind of great.
I do enjoy it.
So
it's important to enjoy your job.
Oh yeah. So you said you made some games before this one that weren't commercial. What did you do before this one?
Well, I have a Flash game I made in 2007, I think. It's 2008, something like that. It was a 3D first-person shooter. It was called Zombie Rapture 3D. Just 5 levels. Basically, you run around and you shoot zombies. It's real original. But
people love that shit. People love that shit.
Oh, yeah. Especially then, too, because 3D first-person shooter and Flash was kind of a novelty. Like, I was really early on that.
Oh, nice.
It was like right when Flash first had GPU acceleration, so you could finally get a 3D engine running in it.
I have to say, I'm not really upset that they're going to be sunsetting Flash.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Just kill it now. Can we just put a bullet in its head now?
It's been a real bane. I work in internet marketing, and for many years, it was just the bane of my existence. Because you get these people with a flashlight, like, how do I rank on Google? You don't. You just don't. Sorry. It looks nice. Sure. But yeah, Google can't read Flash. You're fucked. Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting journey, though, from first-person shooter to space game. And now that I've gotten past that first battle, I'm going to be honest, I'm quite interested to see where this goes next. Now that the universe has opened up to me, and now that I've learned there are other universes, I'm kind of sad. Like, I was just looking at the map, like, wow, there are all these places to go, and now I found out it's all going to blow up. So that's it's like, okay, I'll fly around, I guess, even though I know you're all going to die. Well, okay.
Well, it's not the ending, it's the journey.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It is the journey. So I guess we'll start wrapping it up here.
He dies at the end.
That's probably an ending. Folks, again, the game is Daath Origins. It is on Steam currently for $9.99, currently in early access. Again, not really entirely sure when it's going to get out of early access, but that's fine. You know, I'd rather these things cook for the right amount of time in the oven before they come out, you know, rather than come out early or late. So that's good. So yeah, it's $9.99 early access right now. If you buy it and you find it a little frustrating, know that the developer here is working on it. So don't fret. And again, if you find it frustrating, just muscle through that first fight, because there's a whole big game behind that. Gotta get
all feedback is good.
Yeah, all feedback is good. And as we learned, the developer here is very open to feedback. So just a couple quick programming notes, folks. Thursday on the LAN party, the Thursday night LAN party, we're going to be trying to play Gene Shift. We've never played that multiplayer before, but it looks like a ton of fun. The campaign is in co-op, and the gameplay is inspired by Grand Theft Auto 2, so it can't be bad, because that's, in my opinion, the best Grand Theft Auto. I know, I said it. So we're going to be playing that on Thursday. If that doesn't work, because we have run into problems with games that don't seem to use Steamworks, I'm not sure if this one does or not. We're going to be playing Codename something. What is it called? Codename
Cure. That's the Plan B.
That's Plan B. So I think what we should do now is always have a Plan B for a game. For
Codename Cure just came out today.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
it was in early access and just went to 1.0 today.
Right, and for today only, they've lowered the price.
No, it's free.
I think. I know, but it's like 50% off.
Oh God. And next week on the show, the guest that I offered it to hasn't confirmed yet, so hopefully we'll have them on, but I don't know yet. so we'll see. I emailed them earlier like, hey, did you still want to do this? So hopefully
they'll
they'll
show up. I'm going to sing the entire plot line of the most recent Star Trek Discovery episode, the space opera.
We should just load that up on Rabbit and just watch it in real time. And talk about how much.
Watch it with the volume off, and we do all the voices and
sound effects. No, it'll be like bad lip reading theater. That's what we'll do. We'll do bad lip reading theater to Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, but the best is you have to do it with a live episode that nobody has ever seen before.
Oh, that's
you have
not.
to make the plot up as you go.
We can't do that. Sadly.
I can do that.
So yeah, hopefully we'll have a guest next week, folks. If not, we'll come up with something to talk about, or maybe we'll scrounge up a guest last minute. I want to thank you all for listening and Jeff, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us about Daath Origins. And I'm really glad I was able to get through that first battle, because I was honestly angry before I got through that first battle. I was like, oh, God damn this game. But then I got past, I was like, oh, I feel so much better about this now. So, yay. So, folks, if you try this game out again, don't fret. Just muscle through that first fight, and there's a lot of gameplay behind it. Several hours worth. Looks like a pretty deep, detailed RPG. So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and watching on YouTube and Twitch, and we will see you next time. Have a great night. Bye-bye.